Greetings, adventurers. This is Chris, aka Nos, with new adventures in Skyrim. Today, I'm going to throw another curveball at you all. Have a little bit of a different episode. Fizban's going to be taking some time to reflect. I'm not going to get much more into it because I'll ruin it. Most of you didn't come here to hear me anyway. You came to hear Fizban. So, I hope everything's going well with you. And take care of yourselves. Take care of the ones you love. And with that out of the way, we're going to hop in character. So, Lucian is out with Lydia and Bree, so I'm taking some time to think. In the mountains up there, Lucian mentioned philosophy. I described it as multiple perspectives of the same thing. Let's look at a mountaintop, for instance. If you're at the top of the mountain, the perspective is one of, or maybe one of, accomplishment. You worked to climb up there and see the beauty from above. Now, the perspective from the bottom, looking up at the mountain, may appear daunting. Just the idea of climbing from way down here, it's imposing and dangerous, and maybe, just maybe, not even worth the risk of the climb. And again, from the person at the top, that seems like a foolish perspective, as does the idea of climbing up for a view from the person at the bottom, potentially. And I'm sure there's a myriad of perspectives in between. I don't know if that's what philosophy is, but that's what I call it. Anyway, Bree and Anmund first greased the wheels ever so slightly about family. I mused over their different views on their own families, but really listening to Lucian, that was the hammer blow that got the gears moving, but it was needed in combination with the grease. It wasn't one or the other. I don't know my family. I do not know if they know or ever knew me. And that never occurred to me really, and it never really bothered me. It just was, and it just is. I grew up in the middle of the plains of Cyrodiil, or as Lucian says it, Cyrodiil. Cyrodiil. Cyrodiil, I believe he says it's Cyrodiil. And he's probably more right and educated on it than I. But the plains had tribes, and while they weren't advanced, they were definitely not backwards. For the most part, they instituted nonviolent ways of resolving conflicts. And in thinking back now, it's funny, I had this little area that happened to be smack dab right in the middle of their world. They moved and migrated and shifted their patterns and homes based on farming and grazing and weather and the time of the year, and I was always idle, and just always there. And in a way, it's like I had my own little world revolving around me, as if I was the center of it, kind of like Lucy in a very weird way. But in mine, it wasn't easy. But now that I think back, it's what kept me alive, being in the middle of them, because any threat would have to go through something to get through to me, I should say. I talk to myself. Sometimes I think I'm thinking and my mouth is moving. That's not good in caves. But as a kid on the plains, I didn't have much. Anything I had to carry, guard, hide, or covet, knowing it would be gone soon eventually anyway. And if the plainsmen or a kid of the plains wanted it, they would just come and take something. And it didn't happen often, but it happened enough where I knew that was a thing. So, I did have an axe. And that sounds weird, and they actually gave it to me. I think to this day, I guess I never really actually wondered back about it. But digression aside, one day I woke up to the sound of an axe slamming into the tree a couple feet above my head, and I never realized it until now that I guess that tree kind of made it stand out. So anyway, I always thought about it as they gifted it to me. Anyway, I could never get that axe out. And trying once, I broke part of the stone blade. And after that, the first day it slammed in there, it looked like the head of a bear. And well, to a kid who'd never seen a bear and who'd only seen kids mock at playing them or draw depictions of them in the dirt, it very well looked like what maybe a bear's face looked like. So I started talking to that bear. For most of my life, the overwhelming majority of it thus far, that was the only person I had talked to. I'd listened to the plainsmen. I mocked them, watched their mouths, mirrored their actions and reactions, tried to emulate them. Then I would go home and talk to that axe. I would engage with it, converse with it, practice my mannerisms. I never had the strength I never had the strength to pull it out. I probably do now, but I wonder if it's still there. After it's been there so long, I guess I never even really thought about moving it. Um, do you know? I don't know my age. I don't know how long I was in the middle of those plainsmen. I don't know who took care of me until I could take care of myself. I do remember that bear's face, though. And then there's books. Books. One day I learned about a book, and learning to read and speak and interact with people is very hard to do vicariously. But I tried and I did well enough. Well enough that some eventually, mainly the younger, sometimes more rebellious kids, or those who were already ostracized or maybe on the fringes of their societies or tribe for whatever reason, sometimes associate and do business with me. And just one day, books changed everything. I had no place to keep mine. They were taken if they had any real value, and I had no means to keep them from rot and degradation anyway. So I guess it's well enough I never really had my own, but that's why I cherish them so now. I had them, I read them, but I was forced to remember what I could and how I could. And can you imagine Lucian living his entire life never having really owned a book? Speaking of philosophy, it makes me wonder about family. From one perspective, family is exactly what family is, those bound to you by blood. But from a different perspective, could Lucian, Bree, and others not be considered family to me? Can familial bonds be formed of something other than blood? Is there something akin to that somewhere else, somewhere or somehow else? Something of another name? And if calling it another name based on only the difference being blood shared or not shared, but the substance of everything else is the same, what's the true meaning of family? I don't know. It's getting late. I'm weary. I'm tired. I am going to turn off my brain, take a moment, and clear my mind and go to sleep. All of these questions and concepts can't be answered right now anyway. I guess they probably shouldn't be. But why do I even think my name is Fizban.